Hey everyone, today we're going to be checking out the third edition of the Evergoods Civic half zip 22 liters. And I have to say I was both excited and relieved when I saw this version announced, because with all of the new releases that Evergoods has been coming out with over the past year, I was a little bit worried that this one was either going to get left behind or potentially discontinued. Thankfully that wasn't the case, and not only do we have a new version, but it also includes some pretty big updates. And I've always been a fan of the simplicity of the CHZ. Although I love bags like the CTB and the CPL, there's just something about this layout which I think is a nice alternative for people that aren't looking for a clamshell bag and that just want something that's durable, that has a simpler layout. And so in this video, I'm gonna be talking about what it's been like to use this over the past week or so. I'll show you how I've loaded it out, walk through all the features, and I'll also talk about how it compares to some of the other similar bags that are currently on the market. Before jumping into the video, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel, we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing, as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with the overall aesthetic, you have Evergoods' typical minimal and subdued style, which I am a big fan of. The silhouette here has been updated a bit, but for the most part, this still feels very much like a CHZ, which to me is great because I've always been a fan of the simplicity that it offers, and it just blends in well into a lot of different environments. If you want to take this into the outdoors, this is designed to be a crossover pack, but it can also work great for just exploring a city or traveling. As far as the materials, the bag feels really solidly built. The exterior fabric is an 840D ballistic nylon that feels like it's going to hold up well to rougher usage and also offer a nice amount of weather resistance. I've now had this fabric on a couple of different Evergoods bags, and it has continued to hold up very well as I've used it in a ton of different environments. I like that with the CHZ, the weight of the bag is a little bit lighter than some of their other options. It comes in at just under 3 pounds, which is really nice. Beyond that, you just have really solid hardware all throughout, as well as some very smooth working YKK zippers. Continuing along the outside of the bag, one of the most distinctive features of the CHZ line is the dual external water bottle pockets. These are now available on bags like the CTB20 and the MPL22, but it all started with the CHZ, and the style of water bottle pockets that Evergoods has are some of the best on the market. The material here just feels super durable, elastic, and very spacious. This is going to be able to easily handle my 26-ounce Yeti Rambler. You can probably go a little bit bigger, but this is generally the size that I feel comfortable with. And then, yeah, it's going to hold it securely in place. You can pull it out when it's not in use. The pockets kind of hug the bag nicely. You also have the ability to drain the compartments at the bottom if you happen to get caught in some rain, or if your water bottle spills or anything like that. On the front of the bag, you have the Evergoods Velcro patch on the bottom, so you can customize it with some of the patches that Evergoods sells or one of your own if you prefer. And then at the top, you have a nice carrying handle, similar style to what we've seen on other Evergoods bags, so it's got a little bit of rigidity. And then you have a couple of attachment points next to the handle that you can pair with something like a hero clip or a carabiner if you want to hang a hand sanitizer or something like that. The last thing I'll mention while we're talking about the exterior is that this version feels like it stands up a little bit better than the previous iterations of the CHZ. That may be due to some of the improvements that were made on the silhouette and the materials. And I think that this works well when the weight is distributed across the bottom. I did, however, notice that once things start to shift around, there is a potential for it to tip forward. Moving into the capacity, like previous versions of the CHZ, this is offered in a 22 and 26 liter size. The version that I have here is the 22 liter, which to me is a really great daily bag size, particularly with the simpler layout of this bag. It feels like a pretty generous 22 liters. I was easily able to hold all the items that I normally like to carry with me, and it still felt like I had some leftover space. And I like that even when the bag is a little bit more packed out, it still maintains a pretty slim profile, making it great for navigating crowded areas, going into the outdoors, jumping onto public transit, and carrying onto a variety of domestic and international airlines. I do think that this 22 liter could work as a personal item on a variety of airlines, but the height might be a little bit over the limit on some of the stricter ones, so you want to keep an eye on that. And at 22 liters, this is now one of a couple of different options that Evergoods has in this size range. So I wanted to throw up some side-by-side comparisons with the MPL22. Again, 22 liters with that one, a pretty similar form factor and silhouette. That one's just gonna have some extra organization and a couple of other sort of differences. If you wanna see a direct comparison between the two, let me know in the comments below. And then there's also the Civic Book Bag 22 liters, which is a really great alternative to this if you're not looking for something with water bottle pockets. And to me, this one feels like it maybe holds a little bit more than the Civic Book Bag. But again, pretty good capacity. And if you want to see a comparison with that one, definitely let me know about that as well. Continuing with the harness system, so far the bag has been really comfortable to wear. In general, I'm a fan of Evergoods' harnesses. The style here is very similar to some of their other bags that we've looked at. So you have a nice amount of padding on the straps. On the inside, you have this breathable material to help prevent moisture from building up. The straps also have a good width to help prevent the bag from digging into your shoulders when it's a little bit more packed out. They also have this contoured shape, which I really like. And then you have the contouring on the shoulders to allow the bag to shape to your body a little bit better. On the straps, you also have the pass-through for a hydration bladder, which is a really cool idea. And then you have an adjustable and removable sternum strap. As far as the back panel, this has also felt quite comfortable. You have padding that's distributed all throughout, that same breathable material, some air channels to provide ventilation, and then a frame sheet to help provide that additional support. And one thing to note here is that if you've had issues in the past with the Evergoods bags digging into your lower back, you may run into that here depending on your height. So you want to keep an eye out for that. But for me, I've always had good luck with their harnesses, and this one is no different. So I've been able to wear this comfortably for a long period of time. The last thing I'll mention is that I would have loved to have seen a luggage pass-through of some sort. I know this isn't necessarily a travel-focused bag, but maybe for a future iteration, on my wish list would be some way to potentially stand this up on my luggage so that I could access the laptop area. Jumping into the organizational options, there's definitely been some updates to the layout here. You still have a great quick access pocket at the front. This is gonna have its own dedicated volume, which is one of the things I really like about Evergoods' layouts in general. And so plenty of space, even for something a little bit bulkier. At the moment, I have my sunglasses in here, as well as a charging cable for my tablet and my phone. I also tossed in my AirPods. And then on the inside, you have a little lanyard with a clip that's gonna be a good spot for your keys or some sort of a multi-tool. Before moving into the next section, one thing I wanted to mention is that I was a little sad that there's no extra organization incorporated here on the front, particularly now that the MPL22 has that extra compartment that extends down to the bottom. It'd be super nice to be able to take advantage of this space. And so, that might be something that starts to kind of change the intended design of the CHZ, which I believe is meant to be simpler, but I think that it would be really cool to add it, particularly since you kind of have that pattern already established for the MPL. And then moving to the top of the bag, and what is probably the biggest change with this version of the CHZ is that you no longer have the top quick access pocket, which is present in a lot of their bags. That has now been replaced with a dedicated laptop area. And so I think that this is a really cool addition to the CHZ. One of the biggest issues I always had with it was the ability to get to my laptop easily. So now this definitely solves for it. I am sad that you lose that top quick access pocket, but those are some of the trade-offs that I imagine you have to make when you're designing. And so maybe that'll make its way back in another iteration. But I absolutely love having this dedicated compartment for your laptop, because it's super easy to get it in and out. This is properly suspended off the bottom of the ground. It's gonna offer a nice amount of protection, and currently I have my 14-inch MacBook Pro in here, but you can see that there's plenty of leftover space if you wanna put in a 15 or 16-inch laptop. And so pulling my device out, now with the compartment empty, you can get a better look at the inside. This does come up a decent amount, so if you happen to have a thicker laptop, it should be able to fit in here. And this will also allow you to store a hydration bladder if you prefer. You have a little loop here near the top where you could thread the hydration nozzle through, and then it'll also come through to the shoulder straps. So really nice to kind of have that dual use compartment, and with the padding that's offered here and the fact that this is suspended, it definitely feels like my laptop is gonna be well protected while I'm on the go. The last section that we're gonna be taking a look at is the main compartment. This is a top loading bag, which is one of the most unique aspects of the CHZ line. And so plenty of space here, very simple layout. Before getting into the items that I have here, I did want to talk a little bit about the shape of the bag. This was something that I noticed with previous versions, is that the appearance will vary greatly depending on how loaded the bag is. And so once everything is really packed out, you get the shape that you would expect, from the CHZ. But if you have it a little bit emptier and you have stuff in this top compartment, you can start to see, some different shapes sort of forming. in this section of the bag here. I feel that it's better with this iteration. I think that Evergoods did some work to improve how the bag looks regarded of how it's loaded out, but you still have a little bit of that can form if this section of the bag is pretty empty, if you have something heavier here. And so although I don't think the appearance looked bad, it was different than what you would expect, just given how the bag looks when it's loaded out. And so great to see that there have been some changes here, and I tried to not overly load out the bag to give a good idea of how it will look in more kind of day-to-day usage, because you can really pack this out with a lot of stuff and then it's gonna look all full, but you know, you'll have some of those differences if you're just not carrying quite as much stuff. And so here I have my pretty typical loadout at my Beats Studio wireless headphones at the top. I have my Lockbeat Tech pouch, Civic Access pouch 1 liter, half liter. I also have my Alpaca admin pouch. And then at the bottom, I have the Civic Access pouch 2 liters. And so all of that fit in there comfortably. There was still some leftover capacity. And then I really like how much this comes up. This allows the bag to work well for minimal travel. I could definitely toss in my packing cube, a toiletry bag, an extra pair of shoes, and even a couple more things and use this for a longer weekend trip. On the back of the bag, you have an elastic slip pocket similar to the ones that we've seen in many other Evergoods bags. So very high quality elastic material here. It is pulled up off the bottom of the ground. Great spot to store something like a tablet, which is what I have in here at the moment, but also notebooks or something a little bit taller. And then you have a couple of additional zippered pockets that have been incorporated here. At the top, you have a smaller one that still offers a good amount of volume for the types of little items that you don't want falling into the bottom of the bag. I like that this is near the top too, so very easy to access. At the moment, I'm just using this to store a notebook and then a pair of scissors. You could throw a pen in there, maybe some charging cables, dongles, things like that. And so really like the simple but effective nature of this pocket. And then same for the other side. You have a zippered pocket here that is not as large as the quick access section that was present in the previous iteration of the bag. You now have 2 pockets here, but here this one is just a little bit smaller, but again, it still has enough volume to accommodate something like a headlamp or wallet. And then I have lighter here with the insert that allows it to work more like a multi-tool. So just tossing in a couple of smaller things in here, but I really like, again, just how easy these two are to use and that they're near the top so you can grab what you need without any issue. I would have loved to have seen maybe a zippered pocket in the middle or at the bottom here so that you can kind of treat this like the Civic Access pouch 2 liters. You can kind of stand this up, flip this over, and it'd be great to be able to access either this compartment from the front via this section here or to just have a different orientation. So that's just getting a little bit more nitpicky and adding to my wish list. And that's just because of my enthusiasm for the bag, because in general, this simple layout I think is super effective. It works well with a modular setup if you like using pouches, and is able to hold just an impressive amount. And so, I'm very happy to see a new version of the CHZ, and it continues to offer best-in-class water bottle pockets, excellent build quality, and with the addition of the dedicated laptop compartment, it really takes it to the next level as a fantastic minimal EDC bag for anyone who's looking for something durable, subdued, and that's gonna have a top-loading layout. And so to wrap up, it's been a pretty great experience testing out the updated edition of the Evergoods CHZ22. You can currently purchase this on the company site. The version that I featured in this video is going to come in at around $210, so definitely an investment. You are, however, getting something that's really solidly built and is going to offer a nice feature set that's going to compare well against some of the other similar bags in this price range. And so as I was testing this out, one of the first bags this made me think of is the Evergoods CTB20, which offers the water bottle pockets that the CHZ has, but it also includes a clamshell style opening along with some additional organizational options. And so it offers Evergoods more minimal style, great build quality, it's got a luggage pass-through, and then again, those differences in the layout are gonna be great for travel, but it can also work as a daily bag. The CTB is offered not only in a 20-liter size, but in a 26-liter size like the CHZ, and there's also a 35-liter size if you're looking for something that's gonna be more one-bag travel friendly. And so lots of different options, but as I've mentioned in many videos before, that's one of my favorite kind of all-around bags. I talk about it all the time, and if you're looking for something that's gonna give you just a little bit more organization, then that's gonna be a great option to consider. Another bag this made me think of is the Packed Day Pack. Like this one, that one has a more subdued style that's gonna work well in a lot of different environments. It's a top-loading bag. It's got a really nice organizational layout, some great quick access pockets on the front, a dedicated laptop area with a suspended sleeve. It's got a pretty comfortable harness system, luggage pass-through, dual external water bottle pockets. The main compartment is also top loading. It's pretty simple. It's gonna be able to hold a decent amount, maybe not quite as much as this one here, but just very versatile. And if you're looking for something durable, that's gonna give you just a couple of additional pockets, and that's gonna be a great option to consider. And then the last option that I'll mention here is the 26-liter Alpha Pack from Cotopaxi. That's been one of the newer bags that has really impressed me this year. I really love the fun style that Cotopaxi brings to their bags with the different color options. And then the layout on that one has been fantastic. It's a top-loading bag, but it still has the dedicated laptop area. The quick access pockets on the front have been really great to use, very spacious. You also have some webbing to allow you to clip on additional accessories. It's got a comfortable harness system, luggage pass-through, feels a little bit more outdoorsy, and the style isn't as subdued or minimal as this one here. But if you're looking for something that's gonna offer a similar feature set and it's gonna give you that Cotopaxi style, if you're a fan of that, and that's gonna be a fantastic option to keep in mind. With that being said, the updated edition of the Evergoods CHZ22 holds up very well against all those options. I really love that this now has a dedicated laptop compartment, and if you're looking for something that's going to be durable, offer great water bottle pockets, and a simple but effective layout, and this is going to be a fantastic option to keep in mind. And I'm definitely curious to hear what you all think of the updated edition of the CHZ and how it compares to some of the other popular EDC bags that are currently on the market. And if there's any similar options that you think that I should check out, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I want to thank Evergoods for sending the bag for me to test out, and to you guys for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.